So today we'll be doing Plenty by Isabel Dixon. So this is the poem. If you would like to read, you can take a pause. When I was young and there were 5 of us, all running riot to my mother's quiet despair, our old enamel tub, aged, stained, and pocked upon its griffin claws, was never full. The poem begins by recording the speaker's memory when she was young. She and her 4 sisters were an unruly bunch who used to run and play together while their mother worried. A half-empty bathtub with feet shaped like griffin claws sits nearby, a symbol for the lean times with never enough. Diction. The stanza begins a pattern of diction by which the speaker casts herself as something of a criminal. Riot means to cause a disturbance. Despite her worries, the mother does not say anything to the children. Her silence protects them from the reality of their lives. For example, quiet. Pocked means marked, rough, or unsmooth. As the bathtub ages, the enamel materials of which it is made becomes worn. A griffin is a creature from mythology with the head of an eagle and the body of a lion. It is variously depicted with either a lion's or an eagle's hind legs. The feet of the bat are splendidly shaped to resemble the griffin's claw. Figurative language. Running riot expresses the children's unruly and wild behavior using a metaphor. Imagery and symbolism. The image of the bathtub is vividly drawn. It is old stained with years of long use, and its surface is pitted and marked. The worn appearance of the bathtub contrasts with the depiction of its feet. They are carved like griffin claws. The link with the mythological creature of both elevates the status of the tub and signals to the reader that it is the central symbol of the poem. It stands for both hardship and privation, but also the warm intimacy and close relationship the speaker enjoyed with her sisters. Form and structure. The poem is written in stanzaic form. Each stanza is 4 lines, called quatrains. The first stanza consists of one long sentence, the main clause of which introduced the symbolic bathtub. When I was young, our old enamel tub was never full. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The poem is written in unrhymed iambic meter, the prevailing line length in pentameter. This meter is known as blank verse. The second line is harder to scan and stretches to 6 feet rather than the 5. The unruly length of line fits the content as the children run riot about the house. Sound effect. The children's bad behavior is given emphasis through alliteration. Their mother's silence is given weight through nasal alliteration. Running riot to my mother. Producing the mm sound involves keep your lips closed in the way the mother keeps her worries to herself. Such plenty was too dear in our expense of draught, where dams leaked dry and windmills stalled. Like mommy's smile, her lips stretched back and anchored down in anger at some fault. The second stanza develops detail of the hardship the family must endure. They lived in South Africa, a dry country suffering from frequent droughts. Through it all, their mother maintains her fixed smile, shielding the children from the difficult situation. The title of the poem, Plenty, appears in this line. It means enough, but to have enough is too dear, too expensive for the mother to afford. Details about why the family lives are hard are given. South Africa is a dry country suffering from droughts and poor infrastructure, which can only make the situation worse. Dams leaked and windmills stalled. The word stretch suggests that the that suggests the effort mommy has to make to keep smiling while times are hard and her children's misbehave. That is the diction. Figurative language. The harsh, dry terrain is compared to the mother's smile using a simile. The simile suggests the smile is forced, maybe fixed upon her face, unmoving like the stalled windmill, like mommy's smile. The shape of her mother's smile is expressed using a metaphor. The metaphor has a visual component. The upside down smile looks like the shape of an anchor. It also suggests that the mother is holding the family together like an anchor, tethering a ship during a storm. She is the support that prevents the family from breaking apart in this time of hardship. Imagery and symbolism. Image creates an impression of an arid landscape, hot and dry, expansive lead to dry, and windmill stalled. Form and structure. The poem's form is regular. Each stanza is one unrhymed quatrain. Mommy's smile is given a short sentence of its own. The form of this sentence suggests her smile is strong in the speaker's memory. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The poem is written in blank verse, although the number of feet in each line is not regular. The first line stretches to 6 feet, replicating the idea of expansive draught. Sound effects. Plosive P and dental D and T alliteration is good at expressing negative emotions. The combination of two in these lines aptly expresses the difficulty of the family's situation. It suggests the mother's pent-up frustration as well. The alliteration of A-N in the final line allows emphasis to build up and land on the word anger. Of mine, I thought, not knowing then it was a clasp to keep us all from chaos. She saw it always, snapping locks and straps, the spilling sums and worries, shopping lists. Looking back from an adult vantage point, the speaker recognizes her mother's point of view. As a child, she did not realize her mother's smile was keeping all her worries safely hidden from the children. Diction. Words from the lexical field of chaos and accidents conjure the thoughtless, careless way the children used to behave. The speaker admits her ignorance and contrasts this with her mother's knowledge. She accepts that her mother is older and wiser. For example, not knowing then, or she saw it. The speaker's use of language tells us she now has the ability to empathize with her mother's feeling. Worries. Figurative language. Another metaphor describes her mother's smile as a clasp, like a locked clasp. Like a lock, clasps are meant to keep important things safe and secure. The clasp also kept her mother's emotion locked away. Imagery and symbolism. Her mother's smile is symbolic of the sacrifices a parent makes for their child. In this stanza, she takes all of the family's worries and locks them inside behind her lips like a clasp. Form and structure. Enjambment carries the end of the sentence over from the last verse. It places emphasis of mind, strengthening the impression that the speaker has long misunderstood the true reason for her mother's stern smile. The hyphen signals the change from her mistakes understanding to her realization of the truth. The second use of enjambment suggests the chaos and carelessness the children's behavior. One lines run into the next just as they run out of control. Linking the two words with and is a structure called hendiadys. In this structure, hendiadys is used twice, creating the impression that the mother's worries and the children's carelessness went on and on. There was always another spillage and another item on the list of things to worry about. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The third and fourth lines in the stanza are stretched to 6 feet combined with enjambment. The length of the lines help suggest the mother's worries go on and on. Sound effect. The hard CK sound in the sound in the second line is called guttural. This type of alliteration is very good at expressing strong negative emotions such as the mother must have felt, as well as conjuring the crashing noises of children's chaotic behavior. Sibilance alliteration with S or SH sounds runs through the last 2 lines. Shopping lists or snapping straps spelling. It combines with the enjambment to create a strong sense of movement and flow, mimicking the reckless behavior of the children. Plosive alliteration does the same job as the last 2 lines as guttural in the first 2, expressing mother's worried feelings while simulating the disruptive noise of children crashing around the house. For aspirin, porridge, petrol, bread, even the toilet paper counted, and each month was week too long. Her mouth, a lid clamped hard on this. As the list of mother's worries get longer, her mouth becomes harder and harder. The hardship suffered by the family but concealed by their mother even extended to the everyday items such as bread and toilet paper. Diction. Items in the mother's list of worries are ordinary, emphasizing the everyday struggles she had to provide she had to provide the basics for her young family. Diction to do with time suggests her worries fill her days. For example, months and weeks. Hard directly reminds us of hardship, as well as expressing the mother's determination not to reveal her worries to her children. A sense of effort and determination is also contained in the word clamped. The word both suggests strict discipline, a misunderstanding on the part of the speakers when she was a child. Figurative language. The metaphor of her mother's mouth as a container for the family's hardship is developed against this time as a lid or cover over their worries becoming extended metaphor. Her mouth a lid. Imagery and symbolism. There is no imagery or symbolism in this stanza. Form and structure. By listing items, the poet creates the impression that the mother's worries went on and on. One effect of a list is to create the impression that there are lots and lots of individual terms. It helps put the readers in the mother's position: aspirin, porridge, petrol, and bread. There are more short sentences in this stanza comprising the first and fourth line. Focusing on her mother, the structure of these lines might suggest curtness with her children, an effort she made to hide the truth of their poor situation. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. These lines are all 4 feet long. Their tight curtness mirrors the mother's brusque expression with her children and suggests the tough quality of her determination. The iamb bridges 2 lines and works in tandem with enjambment to keep the lines flowing. The iambic rhythm creates a sense of movement that flows through the poem, like the children's running through the house or the list of worries continually beating in their mother's head. The poem has repeated mouth several times, although it is ironic that the mother never speaks. Instead, her mother represents the way she protected and shielded her children from their situation. Sound effects. P and B creates plosive sounds, and alliteration using plosive can often express the release of strong emotions. Nasal alliteration and an M suggests their mother kept all her worries locked behind her lips. Alliteration helps Alliteration helped the reader stress weeks, which emphasizes the length of time mentioned in this line was weeks. We thought her means skipped chores, swiped biscuits. Best of all, when she was out of earshot, stole another precious inch. Behind their mother's back, the children used to behave badly, skipping their chores, stealing biscuits, and best of all, sneaking more water into their bath. Diction. Swiped and stole are synonyms. The language used suggests the children acted like criminals. The conflict between the children and their mother is set up using an opposition we versus her. Precious inch refers to water. In such an arid, dry country, water is described as luxury. Figurative language. Precious inch is an euphemism for the water that the children added to the bath when their mother was far enough away that she couldn't hear the taps running. Imagery and symbolism. We thought there is no imagery and symbolism. Form, structure. The simplicity of the first sentence, we thought her means, suggests the straightforward, uncomplicated thinking of the child. The way these lines run together using enjambment resembles the way the children ran riot in the house. Another idea is that it suggests the water running from the taps. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The first three lines in the stanza are shorter still, some only 3 feet long. This suggests the gradual shortage of everyday items, and especially a shortage of water. The first iambs of the fourth line actually begins in the third. The unusual technique works alongside the enjambment to suggest the sneaky running of water in the bath. Sound effects. Sibilance SSH runs through the stanza, combining with plosive P sounds and creating a chaotic feeling that links in the children's wild behavior. Sibilance also suggests the running of water into the bath. B is another plosive sound, expressing the illicit pleasure of the children. In best of all. Up to our chest, such lovely sin, lulling luxurious and secret warmth, discourse from fat brass taps, our old co-conspirators. The stanza is all about the pleasure felt by the children as they wallow in the rare luxury of hot water and bath. Diction. Lovely sin is something of an oxymoron. It helps conjures the way the children enjoys the secret pleasure. Lulling means to relax, and luxurious means to enjoy something at great expense. Both words capture the illicit nature of children's enjoyment. Disgorge means to pour out, fat means oversized. Both words connotate plenty and links to the title of the poem. In addition, luxurious and disgorge and co-conspirators are polysyllabic words with many syllables. The length of these words link to ideas such as ease, relaxation, and luxury. Figurative language. Figurative language is a feature of this stanza. Firstly, the speaker describes her enjoyment as a sin, implying that she views her past behavior as immoral or wrong. Then the water is described using the metaphor secret warmth. Notice how the word water has yet to be featured in the poem. Does this avoidance of the word hint the shame the speaker feels looking back on herself and her past self? Finally, the brass taps are described as old co-conspirators. They are personified as accomplices in the crime of stealing water. Imagery and symbolism. There is a visual imagery of the children wallowing in luxury, up to our chest, lolling. Brass gives the taps of metallic shine and suggests they are luxury. Like the griffin's claw feet, the bathtub is elevated through symbolic descriptions. Form and structure. At this point, the poem point in the poem, enjambment is highly suggestive of running water. The quatrain is end-stopped. This marks the end of the speaker's memory. At this point, the poem moves into the present days. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The two syllables arranged in a stressed-unstressed pattern is called a trochee. The sudden reversal of stress helps draw attention to the word lolling. The pleasure of relaxation is one of the speaker's strongest childhood recollections. Sound effects. Sibilant alliteration in the first line links to several ideas: the running of water and the hiss of taps, the relaxing sighs of someone lying back in pleasure. For example, chests, such, sin. L, R, and W sounds create alliteration called liquid. This type of alliteration is often used to suggest the quality of water. Pairs of alliterative and assonant sound heightens the strong feelings of pleasure in this verse. Now bubbles lap my chin, I am a sybarite, the shower a hot cascade, and water's plentiful to excess. Almost here I'll leave the heating on. Switching to the present days, the speaker contrasts her plentiful life now with her life of hardship in the past. Thanks to the effort of her mother, we realize that there might not be as much difference between the past and present after all. Diction. A sybarite is somebody who indulges in luxury. Words in this stanza are from the lexical field of excess. There is a surplus of water, bubbles, shower, cascade, plentiful, excess. This is the first use of the word water in this poem. Figurative language. A hot cascade is a metaphor for the excess of water. Cascade suggests a waterfall. Imagery and symbolism. Strong imagery in this stanza suggests the strong feelings of sensual pleasure the speaker is free to enjoy in the present days. Bubble lap my chin, a hot cascade. Words connected to water occur several times in this poem. By this time, water has become a motive, expressing the idea of luxury and hardship. The more water there is, the more luxurious the speaker's life feels. Form and structure. The similarity of lap my chin with up to our chest might suggest the luxury she enjoys in the present day is not so dissimilar to the luxury she enjoyed in the past. Frequent caesura breaks in the middle of the line of poetry and end stops, interrupts the flow of the lines and slows the pace, echoing the slow pace of life and someone who indulges in every luxury. Enjambment continues to suggest running water. In this stanza, so plentiful, cascades like water. The brevity of the last line is at odds with the excess of stanza. It sows the seeds of idea that something is missing from the speaker's life. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The first and third lines are both extended to 6 feet, linking to the idea of excess. The third line does not scan easily into iambs. The uncomfortable rhythm suggests that under the surface, the speaker is not as happy as she might appear. Sound effects. Plosive alliteration PMP is a little bit onomatopoeic, conjuring the sound of bubbles forming in the bath. Sibilance continues to be a feature of the poem, expressing the sound of running water. Long E sounds create assonance, a good way of expressing the ease and luxury of the speaker's present-day life. And miss my scattered sisters, all those bathroom squabbles, and at last my mother's smile loosed from the bonds of lean, dry times of our long childhood. The poem ends with the admission that despite enjoying every luxury in the present, the speaker misses her past life. The final image of her mother's smile. Her adult self now appreciates all that her mother did for her. Diction. Scattered suggests that the sisters are a long way apart and she perhaps doesn't know exactly where they are. Squabbles means argument, but the tone of the word is more playful and less serious. Figurative language. Loose from the bonds contains a strong implication that her mother has died. The metaphor contrasts with previous metaphors connected to her smile, a lock, lid, or clasp, which all suggested being trapped. Imagery and symbolism. After the images of plenty in the previous stanza, the poem ending on an image of dryness seems odd. Yet this suggests that despite the luxury of her present day situation, things more important than luxuries are missing from the speaker's life, meaning dry times. Form and structure. The final stanza is one long sentence representing the flowing quality of water, time, representing the flowing quality of water, time, and memory. All ideas the poem encourages the reader to contemplate. The poem ends on the word childhood, creating a sense of nostalgia and longing. Rhythm, rhyme, and repetition. The poem returns to contemplate my mother's smile, a repetition suggesting the speaker has to belated realization of the importance of her mother to her life. The final line does not scan easily to an iambs, and the final foot is a trochee. The disruption of rhythm further suggests pain and loss hidden beneath the surface of the speaker's present-day self. Sound effects. M sounds creates a type of alliteration called nasal, which is very good at expressing repressed emotion. The nasal sounds in this stanza imply the sadness and loneliness that the speaker feels in the present day despite appearing to enjoy every luxury in life. My mother's smile, miss my bathroom. Throughout the poem, sibilants and liquid alliteration has been used to suggest the presence of running water. In the final stanza, the association switched the representing quality of memory. The speaker's fluid memories runs and flow just like a water. Loosed, smile, squabbles, at last, scattered sisters.